It was 7:03 p.m., the 12th of October, 2024. The air was thick, the kind of evening where the sky feels like it's pressing down on you. My dad, he'd just left the grocery store. 2 bags of rice in the trunk, a pack of gum on the passenger seat. Miles Davis hummed through the speakers. Asterisk, pause, asterisk. He never made it home. They came out of nowhere. 2 men in uniforms that almost looked real. Badges that almost looked official. Guns that were very real. They screamed at him to step out of the car. Hands up. Knees on the asphalt. Asterisk. Pause, asterisk. But these weren't cops. These were strangers with a clipboard, a fake badge, and a score to settle. Homeowner associations, meant to keep lawns tidy and trash cans hidden, but in some neighborhoods, they become something else. Power trips, threats, guns. And that night, they targeted a young man. My dad didn't wear his rank on his sleeve, but when those fake HOA cops pointed a weapon at his chest, he didn't panic. He didn't beg. He made a call. A call that would send shockwaves all the way to Washington. This isn't just a story about fake cops, or HOAs, or even my dad. This is about what happens when ordinary people decide they've had enough, when they fight back and win. Before we go further, I need to know, have you ever felt powerless against someone abusing authority? Where are you watching from right now? Drop a comment. Let's talk. And if you're ready to see how this ends, hit subscribe, because what happens next, you won't believe it. My dad, Colonel David Carter. To me, he's just dad. But to the world, he's a hero, a man who spent 28 years serving his country with unwavering dedication, Army Ranger, combat veteran, a leader who never backed down from a fightin' or off the battlefield. He wasn't the kind of man to raise his voice or throw his weight around. No, my dad believed in dignity and respect. He taught us that strength isn't about how loud you are, it's about how steady you remain when the world is falling apart. After retiring from the Army, he settled into civilian life like he'd been doing it forever. He became the guy everyone in the neighborhood could count on, the one who'd fix your fence or help you move furniture without asking for anything in return. But what most people didn't know is that my dad's calm exterior wasn't just who he was. It was something he'd earned through years of discipline, years of learning how to stay composed when chaos erupted around him. And on that October evening, chaos would come knocking once again. It was just another drive home. My dad had picked up groceries for dinner rice, vegetables, and some chicken he planned to grill that weekend. He told me later that he was humming along to Miles Davis when he noticed headlights in his rearview mirror. At first, he thought it was just another car rushing to get home, but then the lights started flashing, red and blue. My dad pulled over immediate because that's what you do when you see those lights, right? You comply, you cooperate, you trust that whoever's behind them has your best interests at heart. But these weren't police officers. They didn't have badges or nameplates, just patches that said, "O Enforcement." And instead of approaching calmly, they came out guns drawn. They barked orders like drill sergeants on steroids. Get out. Hands up. Don't move. My dad told me later that their uniforms looked official enough to confuse anyone at first glance. But something about them felt wrong. My dad didn't paniche, never does, but he knew this wasn't normal. These guys weren't acting like real cops. They were too aggressive, too sloppy. Fake HOA cop, aggressively. "You're in violation of HOA rules. Step out now." When my phone rang, I didn't think much of it at first. My dad calls me all the time sometimes just to check in or tell me about a new recipe he's trying out. My dad, with a calm but firm voice. "They've pulled me over, but they're not real cops." I froze. "What do you mean they're not real cops?" I asked him. And then he said something I'll never forget. "They're trying to intimidate me." I could hear it in his voice. He wasn't scared for himself. He was angry. Angry that these men thought they could get away with something like this. These so-called HOA cops had been terrorizing our neighborhood for months, harassing people over petty things like where they parked their cars or how high their grass grew. Neighbor text message: "Watch out for those guys, they're not real police, but act like they own the place." Fake HOA cop: "You think you're above the rules? Not in this neighborhood." But my dad wasn't about to let them bully him not without a fight. They didn't waste any time. As soon as my dad stepped out of the car, they were on him, shouting orders, pointing guns, and acting like they had the authority to control his every move. But here's the thing. They didn't. Fake HOA cop, aggressively: "You're in violation of OA rules, unauthorized vehicle, non-compliance with parking regulations." My dad was confused. He wasn't parked, he was driving home. And what rules were they even talking about? He hadn't done anything wrong. They didn't stop there. They started searching his car without permission, digging through his groceries like they were looking for contraband. One of them even threw his bag of rice onto the ground like it was trash. One enforcer shouts, "You think you can just ignore HOA rules because you're special? Not in this neighborhood." They wanted to humiliate him, to make him feel powerless. But my dad wasn't about to give them that satisfaction. Fake HOA cop: "We can arrest you right here if we want. You think anyone's going to believe you over us?" My dad slowly raised his head to meet their gaze. His voice is steady but firm. "Show me your badge, your real badge." The enforcers glance at each other nervously before one responds aggressively. Fake HOA cop: "We don't need to show you anything. You're in violation." My dad didn't flinch. He didn't argue or raise his voice. Instead, he asked them one simple question: "What's your authority here?" Years of military training had taught him one thing. When someone abuses power, you don't react emotionally, you stay calm and demand accountability. My dad slowly stands up from his kneeling position despite their protests. "You're making a mistake, a big one. You have no authority here. Sit down. Don't move." My dad didn't sit down. Instead, he pulls out his phone and begins dialing. And that's when my dad decided enough was enough. Fake HOA cop: "Put the phone down. You're not allowed to make calls right now." My dad ignored them and spoke calmly into the phone. "This is Colonel David Carter. I need immediate assistance." My dad wasn't calling me this time or anyone in our family. He was calling someone who could actually do something about this mess. "Pentagon Security Division, state your emergency. I've been detained by armed individuals claiming false authority under an HOA. They are impersonating law enforcement and threatening me with weapons." They didn't know who they were dealing with, but they were about to find out. Within minutes, real law enforcement arrived, and everything changed. The real cops quickly figured out that these men had no legitimate authority, and worse, they'd been terrorizing residents for months under false pretenses. My dad didn't just stand up for himself that night, stood up for everyone who'd ever been bullied or intimidated by people abusing power. It didn't take long for them to figure out what was going on. These men weren't law enforcement. They were frauds, plain and simple. They had no badges, no authority, and no right to pull anyone over. The officers found everything they needed to confirm it: phony IDs, fake citations, even a list of targets they planned to intimidate next. It was all part of a scheme to extort money and assert control over residents. They were arrested on the spot, charged with impersonating law enforcement, unlawful detainment, and illegal possession of firearms. This kind of behavior is not only illegal, it's dangerous. These individuals put lives at risk by pretending to be something they're not. For months, these men had terrorized our neighborhood, harassing residents over petty HOA rules and using fear to get what they wanted. But that night, their reign ended. My dad didn't just stop them from hurting him, he stopped them from hurting anyone else ever again. When my dad got home that night, he didn't say much at first. He just sat down at the table, poured himself a cup of coffee, and let out a long sigh. They thought they could scare me. They thought I'd just roll over and take it, but they don't know who I am or what I stand for. It wasn't until later that we realized how close this could have come to something far worse. What if my dad hadn't stayed calm? What if those men had pulled the trigger instead of just pointing their guns? It's a thought that still keeps me up at night. Neighbor 1. I always knew something was off about those guys. They acted like they owned the place. Neighbor 2. Your dad is a hero. He stood up when no one else could, and he did it with dignity. This wasn't just about my dad, it was about protecting our entire community from people who think they're above the law. And it was a reminder that sometimes standing up for what's right means putting yourself on the line. Thanks to my dad's quick thinking and unwavering courage, those men won't be terrorizing anyone else again. They're facing serious charges now, and justice will take its course. But the story isn't just about justice. It's about resilience. It's about refusing to let fear dictate your actions and standing tall even when others try to knock you down. Before I wrap this up, I want you to think about something. Have you ever been in a situation where someone abused their power? Maybe it wasn't as dramatic as this, but maybe it still left you feeling helpless or angry. If there's one thing my dad taught me through all this, it's that we always have a choice. We can either stay silent or we can stand up. So here's my challenge for you. The next time you see someone being treated unfairly, or if it happens to you, don't back down. Speak up. Take action. Because when we stand together against injustice, we can make real change happen. It's about all of us. It's about what happens when people abuse power and what we can do to stop them. Abuse of power doesn't always look like fake HOA cops with guns. Sometimes it's subtly boss who takes advantage of their employees, an official who bends the rules for their own gain, or even a neighbor who uses fear to control others. But no matter what it looks like, one thing is always true. It thrives when we stay silent. I know it's not always easy to speak up. It's scary. It's uncomfortable. And sometimes it feels like nothing will change even if you do. But let me tell you something. Silence is exactly what people like those fake HOA enforcers count on. They count on us being too afraid or too tired to fight back. But here's the truth. Change doesn't happen by itself. It happens when ordinary people like you and me decide that enough is enough. Whether it's standing up against corruption in your neighborhood or advocating for systemic reform on a larger scale, we all have a role to play in demanding accountability. So here's my challenge to you. Look around your community. Is there something that feels unfair? Someone who's being treated unjustly? Don't ignore it. Speak up. Take action. Because when we stand together, we're unstoppable. My dad taught me so many things growing up: how to ride a bike, how to grill the perfect steak, how to tie my shoes. But the most important lesson he ever taught me wasn't something he said, it was something he showed me that night. He showed me that courage isn't just about facing danger, it's about standing up for what's right no matter the cost. And here's the thing. Courage isn't reserved for heroes or soldiers or people with fancy titles. Courage is something we all have inside us. It's just waiting for the right moment to come out. So, whether it's speaking out against injustice in your neighborhood or supporting someone who needs help, don't wait for someone else to do it first. Be the one who takes that first step. Thank you for watching. This story, it means more than I can say. If this resonated with you, if it made you think or feel something, please share it with someone else who might need to hear it. And before you go, let me know in the comments. Have you ever faced a situation where someone abused their power? How did you handle it? Or maybe, how would you handle it if it happens tomorrow? Let's talk about it, because these conversations are where change begins.